Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name's Georgia. I hope you're well. Welcome to our February wrap up. We are at the end of another reading month. I have had an incredible reading month and a very busy reading month as well. So I have read a total of 7 books this month and I'm actually partway through my 8th. And I have also, for the first time ever, actually nearly finished a monthly TBR. So I pick 6 books at the beginning of every single month and I have read 5 of them. And I am partway through the 6th one. I just don't think I'm quite going to finish it in time. And obviously we're sat here filming this now. But it is actually a couple of days before the end of the month when I'm sat filming this. So I might squeeze it in, I don't know. I'm filming this now because it's the only day I have to film it. So I've not read it in time for the monthly TBR. But we nearly did it, guys. We nearly did it. I mean, I'm still quite chuffed with myself. Today we're going to talk through the 7 books I read in the month of February. I'm going to give you my readings, some thoughts and feelings about them. A lot of them are actually in reading vlogs this month, I believe. I'm pretty sure, but if not, I'm actually doing 75 books at the moment. At the time of filming this, we're on day like 20. So if they're not in reading vlogs, you will be able to see sort of like my thoughts and feelings and how much I'm reading of them when on my Instagram and TikTok. So if you're not following me on there already, it will be here. And you should. And Freya will also be here, apparently. There is a lot of Freya on my 75 books. She's been very clingy recently. There is a lot of her on there. If you like your little Freya moments, there are plenty of them over on my other socials. Let's talk through the 7 books I read in the month of February then. So, I started the month off with The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. Now, this book is one that I have had on my TBR for probably nearing on 2 years at this point. And I've just been putting it off and put it off and put it off and put it off. And I finally just did it. I just read it. So this book I actually really enjoyed. It caught me off guard. I really like the writing style. I like the banter. I like the setup. And I also just think it was a really sweet and interesting concept. So we follow our main character Clementine as she sort of like, she's dealing with a lot of grief. She's lost her aunt. She's just sort of like finding her feet and trying to get her life back on track and keep her heart safe. In doing that, she actually ends up meeting this guy who is from 7 years in the past in her aunt's apartment. It's got that magical element. This is such a sweet romance and such a nice sort of like rounded view. There is a bit of a third act conflict that did annoy me a little bit, which is the only reason that this book wasn't a 5-star, but I rated it 4.5 in the end because I just think it was so nice. The romance was so sweet, how they talk about the topics of like grief and like how she died and things was just handled really well, and I think it was such an amazing romance and so sweet. There were also a lot of talking about like Bryant Park in this book, and I've been to New York and we spent quite a lot of time in Bryant Park. It was one of mine and James's favourite places while we were there, so it was really nice to like be back there in this book as well. So we are sort of following 2 timelines because we're following Clementine now and the main character, the main male character, but we're also seeing him 7 years in the past and now. So we've got sort of like dual timeline through him, which I thought was really interesting. So all in all, I really enjoyed this one. It was a very strong start to the month, 4.5. I next read Playing Defence by Clara St. James. This is book 2 in the Breakaway series, and this was actually an arc that I received. I actually read book 2 before book 1, so it's an interconnected sport romance series, but they are very heavily interconnected. So I do feel like I've ruined book 1 for myself in reading book 2 first, because the character in this one lives with the characters from book 1. So I have definitely sort of ruined book 1 for myself reading this one first, but I'm also really excited to go back and read how the characters in book 1 got to this point. So I don't really mind, but I would definitely recommend reading them in order if you're going to read them. I've got Freya fur on my face, it's everywhere. So one thing I will say about this book is definitely check your trigger warnings. The first 30% of this book was really difficult to read. There is a lot on sort of like essay and self-harm, all that sort of stuff. There is a lot of very heavy topics in this book. I also think they were handled and discussed so well and in such a nice way, and the sort of like progression and the healing process in this book was just really lovely. In this one we're following Jackson and Maya. Now Jackson is the main female character from book 1's brother and the main male character from book 1's best friend, and then Maya is the main character from book 1's best friend. Yeah, I don't know if I've explained that one very well, but it's basically a best friend's brother situation. So we've got that playing alongside this sort of like healing, helping process everything that's going on caretaking setup. I did really enjoy this one. It starts off as like a friends with benefits to lovers. It's so lovely, but like I said, that first 30% it was so difficult to read. All in all, I did really enjoy this. I just think it was a really lovely story, and the healing side of it was just incredible. So I've settled on a 4-star for this one in the end, but I really recommend this book if this is something you can read about. But definitely check your trigger warnings, and I'm really looking forward to jumping into book 1 as soon as possible. The third book that I jumped into in February was Game Changers by Rachel Reed. I really wanted to see what the hype was about with this series, so I just had to jump in and get to it as soon as possible. If you have been living under a rock and you don't know what this is a ice hockey romance series. I've never read anything like this before, so I was really intrigued to give this a go. I've never read an romance. I really enjoyed this. There is so much spice in this book, like it is constant, but it's kind of understandable why there's so much spice in it. But if you're somebody that doesn't like spice, you won't like this. I do think that the story alongside all the spice and that the ending and things like that is really lovely, and that it's worth sort of like reading it either way. In my opinion, there is a lot of spice, like I said, but if you can get on board with the spice, or if you can just sort of skip past the spice, if you're not a massive spicy person, then I do think you could still enjoy the story behind it. There's a lot of message to do with sort of like shame with who they are, and like them trying to, especially one of our main characters, Scott, he is the ice hockey captain, and like nobody on the ice hockey team is gay, nobody is openly gay in this sort of like world, and obviously it's such a masculine sport, so it's a very big deal and a very big problem within like the ice hockey community here on like their image, and that he's scared to sort of take this image because he's got so many brand deals and so many big opportunities, and he's really scared that he's going to put all of that at risk if he comes out as gay. So it's really interesting following that sort of story, and then also seeing that from the flip side in our other main male character Kip's perspective, in him just constantly being this secret from the world because he is in love with Scott and Scott's in love with Kip, but they can't openly be that. So I do think that this has some really interesting and really lovely topics throughout it, but like I say, very spicy, constantly very spicy. So if you like the spice, I definitely recommend this. If you don't like the spice, you probably won't love this, but you might still enjoy it because like I say, a lovely story throughout. I really enjoyed it. I've given this a 4.5. I just think it was a lot of fun, and also just a really lovely sort of message behind it, and I'm really looking forward to getting into the rest of the series. It does set up book 2 very nicely, and I'm hoping to read that very soon. So all in all, a really lovely one, and one that I really enjoyed. I can't wait to read the rest of this series. Book 4 then, for February, I next jumped into Scythe and Sparrow by Bryn Weaver. This is book 3 in the Ruinous Love trilogy, and another amazing read for this month. This is the last book in this trilogy, and it makes me really sad to see the end of it, but I'm also really looking forward to jumping into some more of Bryn Weaver's work. I've now discovered that I like a serial killer romance, but that I like that rom-com dark romance mash. I do think that this one was very interesting because we're seeing sort of book 1 and book 2 happen in this book, so we're sort of seeing all the happenings from the other 2 books from Fionn and Rose's perspective in this one, which I really like. This follows the third Kane brother, so we've had Rowan in book 1, Lachlan in book 2, and we've got Fionn in this one. I've said this about the other 2 books as well, but I've audioed all of these. I just think that the audible audio of these is incredible. They've got really good accents. It's that full sort of immersive experience and dual narration, and I just think that the audio for these is so good. I audioed all 3. James is currently on the second book of this in audio because he's also really loving the narration on these. I can't recommend these on Audible enough. I just think that these in particular are so good. It was really bittersweet sort of finishing this series off. I have loved every single book, and this one was exactly the same. I loved it so much. I have rated this a 5-star. This is my first 5-star in February. I just think that this series is so funny, so sweet. The romance is incredible. The sort of like found family element, along with the sort of like toucher and die element that we get in all of these as well. I do think this one has a slightly different approach to book 1 and 2. And like I say, that sort of longer timeline was really interesting because we're going back and seeing things we've already seen, but from a completely different perspective, and I just thought that was a lot of fun. I love Bryn Weaver's writing style. I love the banter. I love the sort of drama that she puts into these books. The female characters are always also strong and funny, and I just love them all. I genuinely love all the main characters that we have in these books. So, again, another one that I highly recommend. I absolutely love this series, and I'm really wanting to get to like Taurus season and whatever that series is called by Bryn Weaver, because I also think that they will just be so much fun. If they're anything like her other writing and are anything like this, I genuinely cannot wait to get my hands on them. I do really want to pick those up as soon as I am no longer on my book buying van with the 75 books I'm doing. So highly recommend. My first 5-star read of February. I had the most fun with this book. The fifth book that I read in the month of February was Diabound by Sable Sorensen. Again, another really fun one. This one is a fantasy romance one following sort of like direwolves. This one follows our main character, Merrin. Now, Merrin's little sister actually gets kidnapped, and she is basically trying to join the army in order to try and get to the front line to see if she can get her sister back. And to join the army here, they very occasionally mix up sort of how they get people into the army. In this particular year, they have another set of bonding trials. So we have sort of like your main frontline army, but then we also have the bonded, which are army that ride these giant direwolves. So on the year that Merrin is trying to join the army to save her sister, it is another year of bonding trials, so she is forced to bond or to try and bond with one of these giant direwolves. I do think that this book was very heavily Fourth Wing inspired. I can see sort of like elements of Ten in Anasa. I can see elements of like Xaden in Stark. I can see elements of Violet in Merrin. I do think there is a lot of sort of similar overlaps. I also still think this was a really fun time. I love a Trials and Competitions book. I always think that they are the most sort of like entertaining and gripping when it comes to fantasy. They are definitely up there as my sort of one of my favourite tropes anyway. So I still had a very, very fun time. I just think there was a lot of overlap and a lot of similar elements as there were to Fourth Wing. But all in all, I did still really enjoy this one. I love Fourth Wing, so this is just Fourth Wing inspired wolves instead of dragons, but I did have a very fun time still. So I've given this one a 4-star. I am really, really looking forward to book 2. The ending of this one was on a bit of a cliffhanger, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how they sort of like unravel that. Book 2 we've actually got coming out in May of this year, so it's not too long a wait, which I'm really, really chuffed about, because I don't want to wait too long to figure out what is going on here. All in all, a really, really fun time. I really enjoyed it. I do recommend it if you like trials competitions, you like that sort of like high stakes thing. There's a bit of a love triangle kind of element. It's just fun. High stakes, keeps you gripped, keeps you entertained, and it's like 600 pages, so it kind of needs to have that, doesn't it? So yeah, all in all, a good time. I've gone for a 4-star rating for this book. My 6th read for February, I read Soul Searching by Lila Sage. This was another one that I have been wanting to read for the longest time. This is a paranormal romance, so we're following our main character, Collins. Now, Collins can actually communicate with ghosts, and she moved away from her hometown because it was just like suffocating to her, but then she actually loses connection with her gift, so she comes back home to try and figure out what's going on. Now, in coming back home, she doesn't want to be staying in her sort of like family house, so her sister actually sets up this sort of situation where she'll be staying in our main male character Brady's house. He's kind of got one full half of the house sort of free, so she ends up sort of staying with him. Now, obviously he has no idea that she can communicate with ghosts. There's a lot of sort of like weird things, like he's catching her talking to herself all the time, and he's also just got his own secrets, like he's come to Sweetwater Peak to sort of like escape his past, and it's them trying to sort of like uncover each other's secrets. So they're living together, and for her to pay rent, she's basically working in his shop. So they're spending like a hell of a lot of time together, and it's them just sort of uncovering everything that's going on. If you're a massive plot-driven reader, then I don't think you'll love this. Realistically, not very much happens, but it's just a really sweet, fun, easy read time. There is some sort of drama. The third act sort of conflict was really lovely, and not lovely, but like how that was done was really nice, and how it was resolved was really nice, and the sort of connections between this book and this series here, the Rebel Blue Ranch series, was so lovely. Amos from Rebel Blue Ranch, which is like the dad of all the main characters, his brother is living in Sweetwater Peak, so we've got that lovely connection there. We see a bit of some of the other characters in that series pop up in here in like the solution to third act conflicts and things, so it's really lovely to see how they've connected both series. And I think she's going to have like a similar sort of style to Elsie Silver, in that all her separate series have some sort of connection, which I really, really love. I did really enjoy this one. It was a fun, sweet, easy time, but I did decide on a 3.75 rating for this one. Like I said, entertainment wise, really good time, but I do usually need a little bit of plot to keep me hooked. So it wasn't slow. I literally demolished this in like 2 sittings, maybe 2 and a little bit. Like I read nearly 70% of this book in one sitting. It was just fun and easy, and it was exactly what I needed at the time after reading a big fantasy like Diebound. So perfect timing. 3.75 stars for this one. So far an absolutely amazing reading month, but then we get to our final read of the month, and that was Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab. Now, I know so many people love this book, and I want to start by saying I didn't dislike this book. In fact, for the first, I think I got to page 100, I thought this was going to be a 5-star read. I had the 5-star feels. I was really enjoying it. I was loving the setup, and then I just kind of feel like there were 500 pages where not a lot happened. So in this one we're following 3 separate women, and it is a sapphic vampire romance. We're following these 3 different women through 3 different timelines, and that concept just, I was so excited, but nothing happens. Nothing happens. So in those first 100 pages, we're meeting all the characters, we're getting to know a bit about their lives, and then we're also seeing how they turn from humans to vampires. We're seeing how people change and how that affects them, and how it's different, a little bit different to your usual vampire way, which I really enjoyed. I think how that was done was really lovely. But then I feel like we just have 500 pages, the same thing really, and I just feel like it got a bit repetitive. It was a little bit slow, and I was just waiting for this to end. With that said, I do think the concept was really interesting. I did enjoy the 3 timelines. I did enjoy getting to know each character. I just feel like this one dragged on for a lot longer than it needed to. I really wanted to love this. I wanted to love it so bad. I honestly thought this was going to be a 5-star, and I thought it was going to be one of those books that really stuck with me and that I really enjoyed and compare a lot of the books to. But unfortunately, it didn't do that for me. I got bored. I just got a bit bored, unfortunately. And I also thought that the ending was going to really redeem it, and I was going to be really excited by that, and then the ending also just fell a little bit flat for me as well. I just feel like I got really excited and had all these thoughts and ideas about it, and I thought it was going to take this turn and these were going to be connected like this, and it was all going to wrap around together and be really incredible, and then it was just oh no, it just is what it is, and that's that, and done. So I feel like I had quite high expectations, and I expected these really big interesting twists and turns, and they just weren't a thing, and it was just no. So I'd got really excited and been oh, this is going to be so good, and then it was just no, it's just that. Cool. I still really enjoyed it. I did rate it 3 stars in the end. I do think it's a good read, and I do think if you're very character driven, you will love this. But if you are plot driven, you probably won't. I like a bit of both. For Soul Searching, it being completely character driven worked for me, but equally it's only a 350 page romance. Whereas when you've got over 500 pages, I feel like you need a bit more plot. That's all I'm going to say on that. But 3 stars in the end. I did think it was a nice time. I just didn't love it as much as I hoped. So they are the 7 books that I read in the month of February. I had a lovely time this month. I'm really proud of the fact that I've managed to get to 5 of the 6 books that were on my TBR. It's the first time I've ever read that many from my TBR and actually stuck to a TBR, which I'm so proud of. And like I say, I am currently reading the 6th book as well, so it was a close one. It was very close, and I'm very sad that I didn't actually manage to squeeze in the last one, but unfortunately it's been a very busy and hectic couple of days with a lot of random crap going on, so we just didn't get to it, unfortunately, but that's okay. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and as always, my social media, my Amazon, my Goodreads and my business email are all in the description bar below. If you've read any of these books, let me know what you thought of them in the comments. I always really love to know your guys' opinions on things, and if you enjoyed the books and if we have similar reading tastes, so be sure to let me know. If you haven't seen it already, my March TBR is already up. I think it's going to be a really exciting reading month. I am currently hitting the target that I wanted. I said I needed to read at least 6 or 7 books every single month to hit my goal. I want to read 8 books this year, so I need to read ideally 7 books every single month to make sure I 100% hit it. There can probably be a few months where I only read 6, but not many. Sitting on target so far, I'm doing well. It's saying on my Goodreads that I'm currently 2 books ahead of schedule, so we are doing well so far. I just need to keep this pace up now. And also, I said I wanted to read at least 1 big book every single month, and I reckon that is 2 big books this month, so I'm very proud. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being here, and I hope to see you in the next one. Take care.